Pokemon the card game is fun, easy to learn, and inexpensive to play. Best of all, the game is a social experience for kids and adults alike, where players use math and strategy, all the while stimulating their imagination and creativity. This video will teach someone who has never played the game before how to play in only 15 minutes. Luckily, the game is very straightforward. Using a 60-card deck, draw 7 cards, choose an active Pokemon, use energy cards to power up and enable various attacks on that Pokemon, all the while placing and possibly evolving additional Pokemon on your bench and using trainer cards for support effects. Pokemon was created by Wizards of the Coast, the same company behind Magic the Gathering. I feel the two games are very closely related and would describe Pokemon TCG as Magic the Gathering Lite. Imagine Magic the Gathering without instants and without a second main phase, and this is very much what Pokemon TCG is like. But unlike a game such as Magic the Gathering, learning Pokemon is actually easy to do, and the rules can pretty much entirely be covered in 15 minutes. Let's begin with types of cards. In this game, there are Pokemon cards, trainer cards, and energy cards. There are several types of Pokemon cards. The most common are basic Pokemon cards. Basic Pokemon are Pokemon in their lowest stage of the evolution chain, or Pokemon with no evolution chain. You begin the game with one of these as your active Pokemon, and they are the only Pokemon that can be played from your hand to your bench. After a basic Pokemon has been in play for one full turn, you can evolve it if you have the proper Stage 1 or Stage 2 evolved Pokemon card in hand. Evolved Pokemon have better HP and better attacks, but they must always be played on top of their respective basic Pokemon first. So you can't put a Wartortle directly onto your bench without first putting a Squirtle there, waiting at least one turn, then placing the Wartortle on top of it. After evolving to Stage 1, you must wait another turn before evolving again to Stage 2. Evolving a Pokemon does not cost any energy, and there is no limit to how many Pokemon, either active or benched, can be evolved per turn. Evolution does not get rid of damage, but it does get rid of any status conditions the Pokemon may have had. Some special Pokemon cards exist, such as EX cards, which are not a part of the basic Pokemon evolution chain. EX cards can be placed directly onto the bench and do not evolve from a basic Pokemon. So, a Charizard EX can go directly into play without having to evolve Charmander into Charmeleon first. Let's look at the parts of a Pokemon card. Going from top left to top right, we see the card type, whether it is basic, an evolution stage, or special, such as an EX. Each Pokemon has a name, and each deck may have no more than 4 Pokemon of any one name. This is followed by your Pokemon's HP, or hit points, which is the total number of damage needed to knock this Pokemon out, and its energy type, designating what type of Pokemon this is. At the card's center are the Pokemon's attacks. These need energy attached to be enabled, and they will say how much energy. For example, this Pokemon needs 1 water energy attached in order to activate its only attack. However, other Pokemon can have multiple attacks and larger, more complex energy requirements. Attacks sometimes have additional effects. These effects are written in intuitive instructions beneath the name of the attack, and are usually very self-explanatory. Remember, reading the card explains the card. Some Pokemon also have abilities which can be used outside of combat. Each ability will clearly explain when and how it is used. Continuing on, at the bottom left, we see a Pokemon's weakness. Weakness means that attacks of the stated type will do double damage to your Pokemon. So if this Pokemon were hit with an electric attack for 50, it would actually do 100 damage because of its weakness. Next to this is the Pokemon's resistance, which is the opposite of weakness. Resistance decreases damage taken from attacks of the specific type. In this example, we see that this water-type Pokemon will take -20 less damage from any fighting attack it may be hit with. Finally, we have the retreat cost. This is the energy you need to discard from your active Pokemon to switch it out with another from your bench. Status conditions. Just as in the video game, Pokemon in the trading card game can receive a status condition. These conditions include burn, confusion, paralysis, poison, and sleep. Only active Pokemon can have a special condition, and if that active Pokemon is moved to the bench or evolves, the status condition is removed. Energy. Energy is the primary resource of the Pokemon trading card game. Instead of paying energy to place a Pokemon onto the battlefield, you instead attach energy to a specific Pokemon, whether active or benched, and that energy powers up or enables certain moves. Energy can also be used to pay retreat costs, which allow you to switch an active Pokemon with one on your bench. Energy comes in two types: basic energy, of which you can have an unlimited amount of in your deck, and special energy, which provides energy as well as an extra ability, which can range anywhere from an additional energy on one card to a beneficial support effect when attached. You may not have more than 4 of any one type of special energy within your deck. One energy card can be attached to one Pokemon card once per turn. There are many types of energy, including grass, fire, water, lightning, psychic, and many more. Trainer cards. There are other cards in addition to Pokemon that aid you in your battle. These are called trainer cards, and there are several types. The first type of trainer cards are supporters. These can do many things, from allowing you to draw additional cards, to letting you search through your library for a specific card or cards. To play a supporter, place it from your hand onto the discard pile and play its effect. You may only play one supporter card per turn. Items can either be held by a Pokemon, or used to give you an effect in-game. For non-held items, place it from your hand onto the discard pile, and then play its effect. A held item or tool card is placed on a Pokemon, giving that Pokemon the stated effect indefinitely. Each Pokemon can hold no more than one item. You can play as many item cards per turn as you have available. Stadium cards are placed between both players' fields, and create unique effects during gameplay that can help or hinder both players as well as their Pokemon. You may only play one stadium card per turn. If a stadium card is already in play, either player may play a different stadium card to replace it. Now let's look at how these cards are arranged on the battlefield. First, we have your deck. A Pokemon deck must contain 60 cards and must contain at least one Pokemon. Each deck may have as many basic energy as you wish, and up to 4 of any other card that shares the same name. Below your deck is your discard pile. Once you have used a trainer card, it is placed here in the discard pile. Pokemon that have become knocked out are placed in the discard pile as well, as is any energy that had been attached to that Pokemon. Some Pokemon and trainer cards interact with cards in the discard pile, but without any of these effects, once a card is placed in the discard pile, it can no longer be accessed by you. Hand. Each player has a hand of initially 7 cards from which to place Pokemon onto the battlefield. Onto your bench, evolve Pokemon from, or play support cards from. Your hand should remain hidden from other players at all times. There is no limit to the number of cards you may have in your hand. Active Pokemon. At all times, each player shall have an active Pokemon, and they will be placed clearly in this active spot. This is the Pokemon you have chosen to attack with, and it is also the Pokemon that your opponent can attack. This is essentially the same as having an active Pokemon in the Pokemon games. The bench. The bench is where up to 5 additional Pokemon can be placed. Think of these like Pokemon and Pokeballs on your belt, ready to be switched into battle should you need to, and should you have the energy or trainer card to do so. Pokemon on the bench can have energy attached to them and can be evolved. Also, in some rare cases, they can even have abilities that can be activated even though they themselves are not the active Pokemon. The stadium is where either player can play a stadium card. Stadium cards create unique effects during gameplay that can help or hinder both players, as well as their Pokemon. Prizes. When you knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon, you may draw a card, but you do not draw it from your deck. Instead, at the start of each game, 6 cards from the top of your deck are placed face down in a separate prize pool, and when you knock out an opponent's Pokemon, you choose and draw one of these face-down cards as a prize or reward. Once you have drawn all 6 cards, you win the game. Gameplay. Gameplay is very straightforward. A coin is flipped to determine which player goes first. Each player then shuffles their deck and places the top 6 cards from their deck aside as their prize cards. Each player then draws 7 cards. Each player then places a basic Pokemon face down as their active Pokemon. If a player has no basic or EX Pokemon, that player mulligans, drawing a new hand of 7 cards. For each time a player mulligans, that player's opponent may draw an additional card. After each player has an active Pokemon, each player may then place additional basic Pokemon from their hand onto the bench, again face down. Both players then turn their Pokemon face up and the game begins. Players take their turns one at a time. During each turn, a player going first may attach 1 energy from their hand to 1 Pokemon, play trainer cards, evolve Pokemon, and use abilities. Attacking comes at the end of a player's turn. A player attacks their opponent's active Pokemon. If that Pokemon is knocked out, it is placed in the discard pile. After attacking, the turn passes to the next player. During a player's turn, their opponent cannot play cards or use attacks. A player can choose to end the turn without attacking if they so wish. Winning. There are several ways to win the game. If a player draws all of their prize cards, they win. If a player knocks out all of their opponent's Pokemon, they win. If at any time a player goes to draw a card and cannot, they lose. How to begin. The best way to begin playing Pokemon TCG is fast and completely free. Simply go to the link displayed here and download the Pokemon Online program. This program works on Mac, PC, tablets, iPads, everything. Pokemon Online is 100% free and will give you a complete deck to play with, as well as the ability to win additional decks, to win additional cards, to win additional packs and tickets just by playing, and again, all for 100% free. They also have an excellent tutorial that will teach you how to play the game, and it takes about, 15 minutes, much like this video. And any paper Pokemon products you buy, from booster packs to battle decks, will come with a code to give you that exact product online, again for free. Well, I hope very much this video has been of some help to you. You can help me out by remembering to hit that subscribe button, like, share with a friend, or just by leaving a comment. If you'd like to know which Pokemon TCG products to buy first, you can check out my Battle Deck review here, my Elite Trainer Box review here, or just my playlist of all Pokemon TCG product reviews here. And this video has been brought to you in part by a sponsorship from Card Kingdom, as well as the Patreon support of viewers like you. So thank you.